Today I'm going to be surviving 100 days in hardcore Ark Lost Colony. A new map, new creatures, new items, and an entire city filled with NPCs, and arguably the most difficult boss fight that Ark has ever seen. The rules are simple. Max difficulty, no gameplay mods allowed, and no dying allowed. Because if I die, I have to restart all the way back to day 1. And before day 100, I have 3 main goals to complete. Tame all 10 brand new creatures, take down both factions of NPCs and infiltrate the city, and defeat the Lost King and his Giga Desmodus, all without dying one single time. I almost gave up more than once making this video, but you guys really enjoy my pain and suffering for some reason, so I think you'll enjoy this. Subscribe if you're a must-chops. On day 1, I went from watching this beautiful cutscene in 4K resolution to spawning in at 3 FPS. Okay, let's not play in 4K. And whoever said that this was the easy zone, well, they lied. Because 3 seconds later, a pack of wild meth users decided to murder me. I lasted a grand total of 53 seconds. Thanks for watching, guys. But anyways, my day began by punching this weird mushroom thing to get some wood and some biotoxin. But I still needed some thatch, so I physically assaulted this regular looking tree, picked up a random rock, and crafted a pickaxe. Crafted a hatchet, and attended a college seminar on how to be a caveman. We've officially entered the Stone Age. But even in the Stone Age, lag was still a thing. And if you see me like hitching or whatever, it gets a lot better later when everything finishes rendering in, so sorry about that. But anyways, I made some pants just in case any aliens were spyglassing from nearby, and it was time to come up with a plan. I haven't exactly explored past this tundra oasis at this part yet, but the rest of this entire alien planet, well, it's cold. Very cold. And the big red tower over in the central part of the map, well, that's the city, and is probably the hardest biome in this entire game. And just in case you weren't paying attention, I'm in hardcore mode, which means if I die, I have to restart from day 1. Good times. So if I want to survive in this world, my new goal is to make some of the new Arctic armor to survive the cold. And to do that, I'm gonna have to level up. Also, there's a bunch of frogs here, and that might be a really good tame for exploring the map. But anyways, after looting someone's entire pelvis from a random bag that I found in the streets, I spent the rest of day 1 exploring, consuming unhealthy amounts of berries, and just like that, day 2 began. But for some reason, the game wouldn't let me place the foundations anywhere near the water at the spawn, so I had to set up the greatest base known to man over here, where the degenerates live. And you'll see what I mean by that soon, because crafting the thatch structures got me to a humble level 12. And I was just about to craft a bed to set my spawn point, but then I remembered that we're going deathless, boys, and I thoroughly regret that decision, because I instead used those resources to craft a bow and some arrows. And what happened next was extremely embarrassing. You see, there's this 8-legged degenerate nearby that's been trying to end my life for the past 15 minutes, and his name is Melvin. Now, Melvin is not very good at climbing, and I need some levels and some revenge. So I stood on top of this rock, and here's the embarrassing part. I fell down. I don't know how, but I have indeed fallen, and I can't get up. And to make matters worse, this man webbed my toes, and corner trapped me against the very rock that I once called my friend. And long story short, I perished. I hate this game, but I wasn't giving up just yet. And this time, I found an easier source of hide. Why are there penguins on the only part of the map without snow? Because regardless of why these gentlemen were here, they didn't last long. But anyways, after skinning Kowalski and his not-so-lovely wife, I turned them into a bola, which I used to tie up my mortal enemy and get some revenge. I also sent Peppa Pig to the afterlife because I wanted to turn him into an Arctic shirt later. Sorry about that. But at this point, I was level 21. I put some levels into Fortitude because dying to an air molecule would be suboptimal. But more importantly, I was a high enough level to finally make the Arctic armor set. And if you've never seen it before, that's because it's brand new on this map. And it's even better than fur armor. So after mining some crystal to make a spyglass, or not. Dude, I only got 5 crystal? I just needed some metal ingots, some pelt, and a little bit more hide. So this map has 10 brand new creatures. There's like this bodybuilding alien dude, some majestic dragon, and there's also whatever that thing is. And I don't have any of them yet, but I do have Ezio from Assassin's Creed. I don't know how they keep getting away with this, but Raid is running a limited time event with Assassin's Creed. And they always knock the visuals out of the park, but when I saw these 5 assassins, I forgot I was even playing a mobile game. I saw Edward and thought I was in the Caribbean in 1722. You can get Ezio for completely free by just logging into the game for 7 days. And the other 4 assassins, Edward, Cassandra, Bayek, and Basim, can be earned through limited time events. Cassandra is actually the first champion of the new Argonauts faction, and I'm pretty excited to see how that turns out. But there's also an event dungeon with Pontiff Augustine as the boss where you can earn the limited time chronophage gear set. Now, my favorite part about this game is the strategy. It's way more in depth than you would ever expect from a mobile game, and the new game mode, the Grim Forest, is absolutely amazing. You guys have to try it. So download Raid today using the QR code on screen or the link in the description below, and you'll immediately get 3 free legendary and 1 free epic champion. You'll instantly get Narma the Return to legendary support, and when you hit level 15, you're gonna get Mausoleum Mage. You'll get Ezio when you log in for 7 days, and then new players can pick one of the 6 legendary promo codes: Turvold, Ellis the Wanderer, Cheshire Cat, Sun Wukong, Ultimate Death Knight, or Reservoir. And they're all really good, but I recommend Cheshire Cat because he's an amazing damage dealer in both PvP and PvE content. And he looks like this, which could be good or bad if you have nightmares. And once you're in, everyone's welcome to join my clan, Juztify's Junk. I'll see you assassins in game, and thank you to Raid for sponsoring this video. So as the sun rose on day 3, I beat up some more rocks and forced them to be more refined. Used my pickaxe to hit a bunch of these normal rocks until I had about 10 raw metal, and now we wait. So in the meantime, I walked outside, immediately committed a war crime, adopted an orphan, and just like that, the metal was done, and I was officially a blacksmith and a drug lord.
I'm uncooked here.
And now the only thing left for the Arctic armor was to kill some mammoths nearby for pelt and to tame a berry farmer so I can get more narcotics for a different day. So I spent my morning picking enough berries to become vegan for the next 3 years, split 51 meat to spoil in my inventory, and made a grand total of 7 trank arrows, which actually should be enough because my target was this fella, Perry the Parasaur, and he was about to get the best sleep of his life. Okay, so 7 trank arrows wasn't enough, and that brother is still awake. So I started punching that man in the face, but he broke free from my bola, and then he broke free from consciousness. Oh, it actually worked. But for some reason, after Perry was down, a random club penguin was angry at me again. So I harvested his kidneys, free hide, placed some berries beneath Mr. Parasaur's tongue, and approximately 5.37 minutes later, Paramount Plus has been brainwashed. But it didn't last long, because the moment that man entered my tribe, a random alcoholic showed up. Ow, dude. That man almost KO'd me with a single punch. And since I'm on hardcore, there's no way I'm fighting back. Paramount Plus was getting absolutely destroyed, and I tried to whistle him on passive, but Mr. Alcoholic was not playing fair. Because when that man threw an entire turd straight at a dinosaur man's eyebrow, my subscription to Paramount Plus flashed before my eyes. But luckily the dude was actually pretty tanky, and he somehow survived being physically and emotionally assaulted. And after the slow effect ended, I did manage to whistle him away, leaving a raging alcoholic in the dust. Oh bro, that was so close. So against all odds, we arrived back at my attempt at a house, and I used most of my hide that I got from earlier to make a saddle for Paramount Plus. Hey, how's it going, dude? Because now that I had a Parasaur as my indentured narcoberry servant, I could finally use these narcotics to start taming some better creatures. So I used my last metal ingot to make a pickaxe, and my new goal was to farm some pelt for Arctic armor so I can finally enter hypothermia land. And since metal rocks don't exist in the spawn area, yeah, it took me like 10 minutes to get 15 metal, but after some waiting around, I made a crossbow, and I made a metal hatchet, because on day 4, over at the edge of the snow, I found my target. This is a mammoth, and mammoths give a ton of pelt due to their obesity. And also due to their obesity, they're super slow. So at a little over 100 damage per headshot, the dude couldn't catch me, and it took about 10 arrows to send him to the Shadow Realm. You're about to become a pair of pants. And that should be enough pelt, but just to be sure, I sniped that level 15 that committed the crime of minding his own business, and a few doses of stone arrow later, I had over 200 pelt. And now all that was left for my fursuit, I mean Arctic armor, was 26 metal ingots. And that's where I ran into a problem, because I found this little Veilwind wolf guy in the water, who is one of the 10 new creatures that I needed to tame before the end of this video. I also found some sulfur rocks, and I even found some obsidian over here. But metal rocks, on the other hand, simply do not exist. And to spare you the details, I just wasted the last 20 minutes of my life hitting regular rocks with a pickaxe, maximum inefficiency, until finally I had an entire smithy full of flint, but I also had 26 metal. So I made a full set of Arctic armor, became an Eskimo, and well, I was kind of scared to leave. I had no idea what was out there, which was terrifying. And Paramount Plus here, he isn't exactly a violent type of guy. And to make matters worse, that giant red tower in the city would soon make me regret ever loading this map up in hardcore. I really need something better than a parasaur. So before leaving base, I turned all of my narcotics into trank arrows, and I spent all night searching the tundra for a high-level Beezle buffo, but I never found one. Yeah, the only one here was level 15. But on day 5, I found something else instead. Oh, a 135 raptor. So I tied up his legs, sent a dose of NyQuil into his earlobe, and then, well, my kneecap got assaulted. Oh, dude, stop. I hate those guys. And basically what happened was the raptor broke free, I came back, tied him up again, and I read him a bedtime story. But before I could find some prime meat to feed the dude, well, I got mugged, not once, not twice. What? He stole 40 trank arrows. But 3 times. Bro, okay, I didn't know I lived next to the Thieves Guild. Anyways, there were some juveniles and adolescents nearby. And I don't make the rules, but they give prime meat, so yeah, we're not gonna talk about that any further, because just like that, after 5 juvenile prime meat, Yoshi has joined the dark side, and he's already making the world a better place. But with Yoshi the Pego Slayer on my side, and the moon exploding as we speak for some reason, I was as ready as I was gonna get. So I crossed over to the north side of the tundra and reluctantly made my way into the infinite snow. The bridge into the city was on my right, but just up ahead there was this outpost thing like right outside the spawn zone, and something about it was off. The walls were all destroyed and alien splooge was oozing from the walls. Ow, dude, what are you? Get away! But when I finally lost that guy, explored around a bit, and finally went inside, everything started to make sense. Because over in the center of this ruined building was an empty vault with the option to activate it. And I've never played this map before, but I have played Extinction and I've played Genesis. And in those maps, if I tell them I'm ready for something like this, I'm about to get ransacked by the 7 Nation army.
Hold on. Now I'm ready.
You do get really good loot from those though, so I'm gonna have to come back later. Because right now, I had Arctic armor, and I was ready to take on the world. But right before I entered the wasteland, I found something kinda crazy, and it's right here in the inventory. So basically, in the Lost Colony update, they added this brand new skill tree and skill point system. And you could say there's a lot of abilities. Super speed, teleportation, summoning, telekinesis, and a bunch of other overpowered stuff. And to get the skill points for that, I have to complete these different challenges and missions throughout the map. And you'll see a lot more on that later. Because I spent the rest of day 5 exploring the surrounding alien wasteland, being super careful not to anger any degenerates along the way, until eventually I came across another outpost. But this one was different, and not in a good way. Why is that ballista turret floating in the air? The robot voice in my head told me to act natural.
Try not to seem hostile.
So when I saw this fine gentleman, that's what I did. Hello, sir. But bro just stood there, unfazed. And I was gonna just head past like this generator thing right here and go in and check the place out. But then this happened. Oh, yo! Apparently, I am not welcome here. Bro, they got a whole civilization in there. And I really wasn't sure what to do. So I decided to leave for now. Okay, dude, I'm leaving. Calm down. This is giving me flashbacks to the PvP days. But the madness didn't end there, because on day 6, I found a pack of hoodlums jumping a Carno. But these weren't any ordinary hoodlums. In fact, these fine gentlemen are called revenants, and apparently they're experiments that are being created by Rockwell himself. And that flying pink alien thing over there is called a Gloon. And I didn't know what that was at the time, but the brother spotted me with his giant flashlight, and then, well, this happened. Oh! Bro, I have no idea what's happening right now. Gloons are actually super useful in this map, and I'm gonna learn that pretty soon. But anyways, I was trying to run away when this random elephant tried to curb stomp me. I ran, but somehow this 2,000-pound looking dude is faster than I am. Oh no, I'm gonna die to an elephant. But with all the commotion, I wasn't paying attention to my surroundings, and I found myself feet first in the purple radiation alien water. Yoshi was taking 160 damage per second at this point, but it bought me just enough time to lose the giant elephant dude and get out of there. Oh, that was so bad. But it still wasn't over, because 4 seconds later, I became a victim of gang violence. A squadron of revenants showed up, but luckily they were a lot weaker than I expected, and I took them down pretty easily. And it was super worth it, because the loot that they dropped included spoiled meat and small feces. Okay, it actually was not worth it at all. At this point, everything was going wrong, and I had no idea where I was even supposed to go. But one thing was clear. All things pointed to the middle of the map, and I really wanted to see what was up in that city. So I force-fed Yoshi 879,000 calories of raw degenerate to get him back up to full health, slayed this level 5 Ovis man for some mutton, and that gave me an idea. Ooh, I should tame a snow owl. Flyers are always really good in every map, basically, but snow owls are even better. These guys are faster than Usain Bolt, they glide like a griffin, and I could use their health and stamina to explore the city without touching the ground. At least that's what I thought. So after almost losing my life to this level 15 elephant, bro, I'm already low health again. Those things are way too strong. Well, finding a decent snow owl was a lot harder than I initially thought. Level 50, level 25, because after my game crashed, 10 out of 10 optimization, by the way, I realized how bad the level scaling was on this map. Level 15, level 20, a child, level 55, 5, another 15, 35, 10. Okay, this is ridiculous. I searched for 20 minutes, and not a single snow owl was even above level 50. So even though I'm running all vanilla hardcore settings for this video, it's gonna make it a lot more entertaining for you guys and help my sanity for me if I install 2 quality of life mods. First is the Super Spyglass, and that just shows me the stats of wild dinosaurs. And the second mod is the Dino Finder. And the Dino Finder adds this little tracker to the map, and it doesn't change anything in the game at all. It just shows me where things are that are already spawned in on the map. And no owl man can hide from me now. Now, for some reason, this level 95 snow owl is the highest one on the map. Oh, that's where the metal rocks are. And to make matters worse, this man was highly skilled in being annoying, because I sat here with the patience of a monk waiting for this fine gentleman to land. And 5 minutes later, I still was waiting with slightly less patience than a monk, and I'm pretty sure he's higher than he was to begin with. I don't understand why wild creatures have unlimited stamina. So I cut my losses and traveled 1,500 meters north to the other level 95 on the map. And this is where things went wrong, because after being double teamed by the Wolves of Wall Street, oh, that was so bad. Mr. Owl was busy being a menace to society, and I really needed to clear the area. And I also needed to set up a trap, because according to Dododex, this is going to take at least 20 arrows, and I don't want this owl man flying away. But the moment that I finished crafting the wood gateways, it was already too late. Because when I turned around, Mr. Owl was entering the stratosphere. Why are they doing this? Pretty sure something is wrong. There's like a glitch or something. So I won't make you stare at pixels for the next 20 minutes like I did, but long story short, I don't think either one of these guys is coming down. But it was now day 8, and things are about to get a whole lot more interesting. But first, I was getting thirsty. So I tried to drink from this river over here, but the water was like too shallow or something, and it wasn't letting me drink it. And that's when this happened. Oh no, oh no, 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 no. Yoshi, help! A level 105 direwolf just materialized in front of me and tried to end my career. Yoshi did come out victorious, but he was pretty close to ending his career as well. And overall at this point, I felt really bad. Like, I wasn't making any progress on this map. But that was all about to change, and not in a good way. Because I made a quick trip back over to my humble abode in the starting zone, where I did some base stuff, repaired my armor, and I headed back out to a little bit further, where I found this. The Dino Finder is not going to show creatures that I've never rendered in before. And this 120 Snow Owl was exactly what I needed. But little did I know, he was exactly what would cause my downfall as well. Because after watching this man fly higher and higher just like the others and eventually come back down, I guided him over to my trap and then he got out. Oh. Well, that didn't work.
So I built this cage to keep him secure so there's no possible, oh my god.
The cage was too wide, and since I made it out of wood, well, it's now damaged and I can't move it closer. I done messed up. There was no way this man was gonna stay in this trap, and he sure did love attacking it. So instead of trapping him, I decided to trap myself. And I proceeded to defy all laws of physics and shoot this man in the face through a solid wooden wall.
Yes, science!
And it was going pretty well at first, but then he decided to run away to his mother, and that's where everything went wrong, because I was trying to farm some wood for a trap while waiting on him to come back. And when he did come back down, well, I'm not even gonna say anything, just this is what happened. Wait, what? Did that dude just one-shot me? So, yeah. That happened. Oh, dude, I have to start back from day one. And we're back, boys. It's day 10, and Hoppy Gilmore has helped me domesticate Doctor Who. Bro, if I keep dying, this video is gonna take me 3 months to make. But anyways, I had pretty much everything that I needed to start exploring the map. And hopefully Hoppy Gilmore won't get murdered by the neighbors while I'm gone. But first, I want to show you guys something I found during that montage, and it's right by the North Tundra spawn. This is a soul one. And after what happened last time, I'm kind of scared of the dude. But also, this cave looks sick, bro. And I was planning on setting up a base here, but more on that later. Because right now, it was time for the main event. Something that I would soon come to regret. I wanted to visit the city. And it all started with exploring the northwest portion of the map. Ooh, what is over here? The first bridge into the city was interesting. There was a UD chasing Harambe himself, and over in the back was a cave that went into the mountain. It went pretty deep inside, and I started seeing some bats and then got scared and I turned around, but I'm pretty sure there's an artifact in there. But anyways, that wasn't important at the time because I had my sights set on the city and this giant red laser that was coming from the mountain. What is that? Now, curiosity causes us all to do some pretty stupid things every now and then. And on that day, I was no exception, because as I began to fly up directly into the danger, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Because with the main entrance to the city on my right and the giant red spotlight right in front of me, I knew that something was off. Okay, I don't think I want to go near that light, but I didn't turn around either. And as I made my way down past the bridge, I realized how insane this area actually was. With random towers, bridges, and statues everywhere, I eventually came to this red guard tower on the outskirts of the city. At this point, I was pretty scared. And it didn't help that there was a dude riding a Theory inside with 2 assault rifle guys following him. I was having flashbacks to day 5 when I met Machine Gun Kelly. What I'm trying to say is, I don't think these guys were friendly. And that was only the beginning. Because past this alpha hulking revenant guy who looks like he's on his 37th cycle of trend, that brother is huge, was the main gateway into the city, leading all the way to the giant ominous red tower in the distance. And basically, to beat this map, you gotta get through the city to that to do the boss fight. So I regrouped on the bridge where the voice told me about some lore and how important that this bridge was to him.
You found the Great Western Bridge, built to access the highlands to our west.
I then completely ignored what he just said and chopped down his lamppost for some crystal and headed in a bit closer. And this is where things started to go wrong. Because what happened next, well, that's something I'm still trying to figure out to this day. Because this platform here with like the blue thing in the middle was some sort of teleport. And the voice was just about to tell me that he wasn't going to harm me, which would be pretty great. And you guys heard what he was about to say. I mean, the subtitles are right there. And I was just standing there, but I guess I did something that he doesn't like because mid-sentence, he changed his mind, canceled his dialogue, and then the brother threatened to murder me.
Follow our rules. I warned you.
What? Bro, what did I do?
Not to disobey. Unless you can prove yourself against our revenant invaders.
This man is bipolar. And just like that, I was now a wanted man, on the run from the law. And even though I have no idea what I did wrong, I clearly couldn't stay here. So on day 11, it was time to come up with a plan. I need to get in that city. And taming some of the new creatures on the map and raiding some of the outposts seemed like a good place to start. So I started searching, and over in the nearby wasteland, I found a goon. I mean a gloon. And this floating pink pair of, eyeballs, we'll go with that. Well, he had a child, and I was hoping that if he somehow passed away, then the child would be an orphan, and I could adopt him. So I punched him in the alien face, and that was the exact moment that my plan failed. Because this goon did some voodoo magic, mesmerizing Doctor Who. And next thing I knew, bro was doing the cha-cha slide without my consent. And there was nothing I could do about it. Oh, it's kind of like a UD fear. Wait, can I do that if I tame him? And according to Dododex, I can passive tame these guys if I take out the Revenant army. And I'm gonna try that pretty soon. But anyways, I made my way back over to that first outpost that I found earlier. And now that I had Doctor Who here, I could get a better look inside. You see, these gentlemen inside, well, their scientific name is a thrall. But from now on, I'm just gonna call them degenerates. Because my new goal was to raid this exact outpost right here. Because I heard that they have some pretty good loot and it might help me get into the city. I just needed to get past their heavy auto turrets, and I saw at least 3 in there. Okay, there's 3. I wonder if they can run out of ammo. Like if I bring a soaker, does that do anything? Yeah, as you can see, I was treating this like a PvP server. But the plan was simple. I needed a few tames and I needed a few items to get inside. But I also needed a base because I'm homeless. And after flying around the map for about 10 minutes, I came across this mountainside apartment complex. Now, there were already a few sociopaths that were living here, but when I saw the second floor, I was determined to make this my base. Dude, this place is super cool. The area was huge, it was flat, and the nearby mountain even had some gold metal rocks on it. I'm like 95% sure that Wildcard put this in the map just to be a base location. But the only problem was this guy, the Mana Garmer. Bro was bouncing off the walls, literally, and luckily he was only level 10, so Doctor Who put him in his place, that place being the Shadow Realm, of course. But if manas spawn here, that might be a problem. Also, my roommates just murdered someone, and since I don't think this guy is gonna be needing it anymore, I stole his hide and his children. Thanks, bro. But anyways, my house wasn't gonna build itself, and after making a storage box and going to war with dehydration, I spent the rest of day 11 beating up some rocks, reverse planting some trees, and giving some sleep therapy to this directionally challenged neighbor. Because on day 12, it was time to set up a real base, and it was time to prepare for war. I was taking this a bit too seriously. So I took an international flight across the universe, found another outpost by the way, and made my way back to the North Tundra, where a random Diplo forgot his spinal cord. I left a ton of metal and pelt behind earlier, and I was here to come get it. And I might as well grab this stuff while I'm here as well. And just like that, my entire base was now inside my, wherever I keep things. But before I could leave, my mortal enemy showed up. Oh no. The hash-slinging slasher was relentless, and Hoppy Gilmore didn't stand a chance. But even though Doctor Who saved his life that day, oh, it was only level 10? Well, I'm gonna be real with you guys. He's probably getting abandoned here. But anyways, this map is ginormous. And even with the Snow Owl, it took me so long to get back to base that my adopted children are now adopted full-grown men. Wow, that sounded very weird. And they also only have 400 weight, which is a disappointment to this family. But enough about those guys, it was time to set up the base. So I made 9 foundations, placed them into a square, And I realized that the foundation isn't like perfectly parallel with this line on the floor here, and that really bothers me like a lot. So I tried to fix it, made it even worse, and then I placed them over in the center of the room. That way I wouldn't be able to tell. Good times. But I'm no longer homeless. So on day 13, I pressed the Y button on my controller very many times, went into my kitchen and used some berries and some meat that was expired to make some hardcore drugs that can be shot out of a crossbow, used said crossbow to knock out my roommate and then gaslight him into becoming a farmer, and while I was waiting on him to wake up, I finished the ceiling in my base. And just like that, a metalhead was tamed. And I wasn't a high enough level to make the RG saddle yet, but when I am, that disappointment over there and metalhead are gonna go on a metal run. So on day 14, with a base setup and a way to get metal, it was now time to plan the heist. And step 1 was to make a fabricator. And if you're wondering why I want to make a fabricator, well, let's just say that those dudes from the Outpost earlier, I'm going to show them a bit of my explosive personality. And to make the fabricator, I just needed some oil and some cementing paste. And that was more of a problem than I thought. Because first of all, well, I found this Ossidon fella. And that has nothing to do with oil or cementing paste, but I looked him up when I found him, and the dude is overpowered. So yeah. I want. But like I was saying, it's pretty hard to find oil on this map because it blends in with the snow. And luckily there are a few nodes underneath my house down here, and that gave me just enough oil, but cementing paste on the other hand was much more difficult because I had enough chitin to make about 16 and I need 20. And since I haven't seen any beavers on this map, using chitin seems to be the only way of getting paste. And that took a lot longer than it should have. But after spending the rest of day 14 cooking up some narcotics in my drug lab, the preparations were almost complete. And I kind of wanted to do something a bit risky. Yo, I think I'm going to tame an Ossidon for the raid. Ossidons are like the Rex of this map. But it wasn't going to be easy. Because out of the 10,757 creatures that are all spawned in on this map right now, well, only 4 of them were Ossidons. And each and every one of those fantastic 4 were absolutely abysmal. Wait, he has 0 points into health? How are you even alive?
'Tis but a scratch.
I didn't really want to tame the level 15 when they could be way better than that, but I wanted to at least compare his stats with some other creatures I could use for the raid. So I spent another 15 minutes farming keratin for cementing paste, made a super spyglass, and he has 2.3k health at level 15. That is one healthy young man. And I'm either gonna tame him or a Rex, and maybe even a Soaker. And I also needed some more firepower. So I made a saddle for Disappointment, yes, that's what I named him, introduced him to a metalhead, and advanced to the Metal Age, and found my target. What is bro doing up there? Okay, that's not my target, but I found him soon enough, because I spent day 16 exploring the map to render in some more Ossidons and some Rexes, took a quick gander over the city of degenerates, and I even found another little outpost. And I'm really glad that I did, because back at base, I opened the dino tracker and I typed the word Ossidon, and this time, we got some results. Whoa, 140. This was a huge day for the unemployed, but finding the dude is the easy part. And at this point, I've been grinding and taming stuff for so long, I just wanted some action, man. So I made some gunpowder and attended an American seminar. Crafted this rifle with a long neck and purchased some ammo from Ammunition. And finally, I made enough trank arrows to fall asleep for the next 8 years. Because on day 17, I found a level 125 Tyrannosaurus Rex. Now, that man was on the lower ledge, and I was too lazy to build a trap. But 25 bedtime stories later, he decided to run away from a good night's sleep. At one point, Gravity forgot that this dude exists, but no matter how much he runs, as a certified sleep therapist, I can't let him get off that easily. So I sent a few more nighttime routines into his prefrontal cortex, and a few minutes later, his torpor was around 11k. But this random mana wouldn't leave me alone, and my crossbow was also about to break. So I had to make a quick detour back to base when I saw something in the sky. What is that? This fine gentleman is called an Aureliax, and apparently he eats shotguns for breakfast, and he also eats literally everything else, but that can wait. Mr. Rex is about to fall asleep. And after some technical difficulties, the Rex was kind of far away from the ledge, but I kept my distance, I finished the job, and I cured that man's insomnia. But it was now day 18, and after sticking some prime meat inside of an unconscious esophagus...
What?
Okay, that sounded kind of weird. I found this little building that leads inside of the mountain. And since I was waiting around anyway, I decided to check it out. As I made my way down the longest hallway of all time, it quickly transformed from an ominous building into an ominous cavern. And not much lived inside here at first, but there were some Desmodus, which are like these vampire bats that kidnap you and then chug your blood. Good times. And by the way, there's Giga Desmodus on this map too. I'll let you guys see that for yourself. But anyways, inside the cave, I found a campfire that was still lit, along with whatever was left of these ruins. And even though there was only one Desmodus near the ground, the 7 Nation army was watching from above. Well, that's not creepy at all. And I probably should have just left the cave there, but I had to see what was inside. So I continued on into an even bigger and even deeper cavern. And when I made it out to the main area, it was pretty insane. The cave was an underground ecosystem, home to various species of degenerate, troglodyte, cretin, and gentlemen, and everything else you'd expect inside a cave. But it also had majestic waterfalls, ruined buildings, and somehow an entire forest of trees growing without sunlight. And I'm pretty surprised that the game even allows me to use a flyer in here, to be honest, because I've already skipped like half of what would have been a pretty difficult cave. And I'm not sure if there's an artifact in here or not. I looked around, but I couldn't find one. And behind this waterfall in the forest area, I went through there, and it actually led me out of the cave back into the snow. I'm 1,000 meters away from the Rex. Oh, that cave was massive. So yeah, that took a while. And when I made it back, the Rex was tamed. Not even sure what I should call this dude. Welcome to the family, Steve. Steve was ready for war. Well, kind of. Because at this moment, I noticed something. I don't have any cryopods. And on this map, they're a lot harder to make. So I made my way to the tundra, where I committed some organic polymer-related war crimes.
What a tragic loss of life.
Made a quick stop back at my base to make a saddle for Steve, repair my armor, and grab everything that I needed for the cryopods. And that's when it hit me. Wait, there's no obelisks on this. Where am I supposed to make the cryopods? Apparently, you craft the cryopods at the teleporters in the city. You know, the one where the dude tried to kill me earlier. And this time around wasn't any different. Because when I arrived, I saw 2 dudes riding some dogs, menacingly, but they weren't trying to gun me down. So I got a little bit closer and landed on the platform. And that's when I met Timothy and Jimothy. Timothy really hates wearing shirts. And his evil twin brother Jimothy, well, I think he speaks for himself. But while I was admiring their degeneracy, someone else tried to assassinate me from behind. Oh, dude! And this wasn't any ordinary thrall. In fact, this man on the Raptor was a gunslinger. But he wasn't a very intelligent gunslinger because all I had to do was fly over the edge and the brother went skydiving without a parachute. And I really thought I could do the same thing for Jimothy and his shirtless brother. And it almost worked. But what I didn't account for, however, was that this man can fly. And while he was pretty bad at it, well, that was just sad. His shirt-hating twin brother was a professional. And he also had a flamethrower. Oh, bro, what the heck? I tried kiting this man into the bungee jump of doom, but he flew right back up and continued to r/roast me. Bro, leave me alone. Luckily, I managed to sneak away into this statue thing, and I used the Snow Owl freeze ability to fully heal back up, because now it was time for round 2. At this point, the game was insanely laggy, but the platform looked safe enough. So I pulled out the long neck rifle, sniped a man in the eyebrow, and he was completely unfazed. I did manage to hit 2 more shots before I got burned alive, but I was forced to fly up, and that's when he started. Playing Dance Dance Revolution. I was trying to spyglass the man to see how much health he had after taking 3 shots to his chiseled jawline, but well, I didn't have to worry about that now. The teleporter was clear, and if I wasn't in hardcore, I probably would have used it to see what happens and where I go. But I am in hardcore, and I've got to be careful. So I made my way over to the Degenerate's laptop, where I queued up 5 cryopods. And a few seconds later, I had achieved a 5-star wanted level. Oh no, they're after me. But just in time, the cryopods were finished, and the locals weren't very happy about my little sting operation. Later, losers. Okay, I probably deserved that. The mission was a resounding success, and Steve was now inside a Pokeball. But he wouldn't be there for very long, because on day 20, I now had a Rex, and I could do some of the supply crate raids. And over in the West Valley, I found one. So after clearing the area, I made Steve very health conscious. I then scheduled him an appointment with Doctor Who for a checkup, and if you've never used this before, the Snow Owl Freeze will heal your tames. It's actually kind of overpowered, but it does take a while. But anyways, Steve was ready, and it was time to declare war on this box. At this point, Wave 2 was complete. Well, almost. Because I left Leonardo da Vinci alive over there. And I think it's fine because that brother is doing negative damage right now. But the reason that I've generously spared his life is so I have some time to level up. I got 24 levels from that, by the way. And more importantly, I had some time to summon Doctor Who to heal up Steve. It's kind of funny how this guy's actually healing people. It's like he's a real doctor. And I'm really glad that I did. Because after Leonardo's execution, Wave 3 began. And it wasn't too bad at first. But then the Dimorphodon showed up. Oh no. And this is where things got difficult. Dimorphodons can damage the player directly, and even though there were like 37 Spinos and an Alpha Carno beefing with my cardboard box, well, these little flying demons could easily end my entire hardcore run. So I had to take them out first, and I tried to make my way back to my Amazon package that was being assaulted by a pack of heathens. But every time I killed a Spino, another Dimorph appeared out of thin air. And long story short, I was very close to my demise. But in terms of the actual task of Steve versus everybody, he took about 15,000 damage, but they took even more. And after the last straggler had been eliminated from life, the event was completed. I'm proud of you, Steve. Bro, Steve leveled up like 40-something times from that. These Lost Colony drops work just like the orbital drops from Extinction, where you press the Y button and then they throw everything on the ground, making you pick it up one by one like a peasant. And I wanted to make sure that I grabbed all this hide as well because I might need it for saddle BPs later. Okay, so here's the haul. That drop actually gave me some cryopods, which is pretty cool. I got a bunch of random resources, including some minting paste, which is pretty nice. I got a chainsaw blueprint, 20 hollow decoy grenades, which make a hologram Juztify. I think you're supposed to use those to like distract the civilians of Degenerateville. And finally, I got these 2 trait things, which can provide bonuses to my armor and to my weapons. But it has to be applied in a makeshift mega lab, apparently. And also, I'm now a high enough level for a tech bunker, a blood forge, a cryo hospital, and a warbench. And I don't know what any of that is, but I'm gonna make it and I'm gonna find out at some point. But anyways, I spent the rest of day 20 just doing some chores around my base. And on day 21, I made my way over to that first outpost that I found at the beginning of this video. My bad, bro. And at the time, I didn't know there were different difficulties, and this one is alpha, which means it's really hard. But anyways, I checked the entrance, and there were 4 degenerates at the front gate. I also saw a heavy auto turret back there, but it looks like it's not powered right now. Don't worry, it will be. And I was feeling pretty confident, but then I moved 5 inches to my right, and I witnessed a mammoth get absolutely decimated. Wait, he had 4,000 health, and he died that fast? Okay. It took me a second to find it, but these dudes somehow managed to create a tech turret. The degenerates are evolving. And at that point, I already knew that this wasn't going to work. I would need like a Stego or a Bronto or something to soak the turrets, but I don't even know if they could run out of ammo. But I still wanted to see what I could do. So I sniped a raptor, bro. He was unfazed. And I got a little bit closer. And that's when it began. Oh, it's like a mission area. Every time I walked away from their little invisible boundary, the mission would fail and everything stopped attacking. And even though I probably wasn't going to get in there, since I can just run away and then they forget that I exist, I decided to see what would happen if I tried. So I repeatedly lodged Steve's teeth into the ribcage of several degenerates, and the dudes had about 2k health and they did a decent amount of damage, just tanking Steve's bites like a man. And every thrall that I killed increased the little hostile counter on my buff bar. I have 16 now, apparently. I really hope that's not a bad thing. But with heavy and even tech turrets and me being in hardcore, I was too scared to get any closer. So I decided to leave and maybe find a gamma difficulty outpost instead.
Dare you raid one of my outposts? My thralls will make you rue this
Bro, did you just use the word rue to threaten me? His vocabulary wasn't very threatening. He reminds me of a mafia boss that uses a vape instead of a cigar. But I was still scared that he was mad at me because the hostile thing is at 16 and I don't know what that means. But regardless, I'm not giving up because I found a beta outpost that didn't have tech turrets. That still doesn't change the fact that they have heavy turrets and I don't have explosives to take out the generators or a soaker. But either way, I'm gonna give this a shot. Oh, well that was easy. Apparently you can eat the turrets for breakfast. Dude, I've been making this way harder than it needs to be. But the turrets were the least of my issues because the outpost was loaded. There was a Rex, a Spino, a bunch of other scary things, and I thought that Steve could take them because they only had about 8k health each, but there was a lot. And a non-zero amount of time later, things were not looking good. If I died here, it would be game over. And despite Steve bleeding out in the streets, we managed to successfully become a coward and ran away. Aw, what's wrong guys? Your leader won't let you leave the mission area? And I'm not sure if this is intentional game design or not, but while Steve was visiting Doctor Who for his medical appointment, well, the outpost was still damaged. Like I left the mission area, failed the mission, and half the dudes are still dead. And on day 22, I picked right up where we left off. The genocide was complete. And one by one, I managed to take out all of the turrets while using the walls as cover. At one point, Steve did have to schedule another appointment with Doctor Who due to 387 gunshot wounds, but a few thousand metallic calories later, the Thralls sent reinforcements. Oh no, I didn't heal enough for this. And this time was way worse than before. They had a Rex, a Yudi, a Cerato, a Theri, and a bunch of other things as well. And it wasn't long before I had to abandon the area again for another health consultation for Steve. And it was kind of weird how these dudes just stand right next to me and forget that we had beef 23 seconds ago. At one point, I even healed the enemy by accident. But when I was fully healed and I finally turned around, it was too late. And everything was gone. I kind of knew that this was too good to be true, but the timer was ticking even while I was outside of the arena. And even though the turret still wanted to harvest my kidneys, I couldn't damage anything except for the generator to stop me from being assaulted. But yeah, I ran out of time and I failed. And that's to be expected. I needed another Rex or something. But overall, just to give my opinion, I'm super disappointed in these outposts in general on this map. Because going into this map, I was expecting for these outposts to be like a raid. I wanted to breed Brontos or Stegos to soak the turrets and then use like C4 and rockets to run the generators. Basically just use actual strategy like in a PvP server, right? But maybe that'd be too like hardcore for the average player. I don't know. But like everything in this game is just bite things. Anyways, the outposts are still pretty cool. I just needed one more Rex, or better yet, some of the new creatures to take them on. And that was next on my list. Right after I try one more thing, because these ruined villages have a vault inside and it's different than a supply crate. Whoa, what is this? At first I wasn't really sure what was happening. Whoa, is this like tower defense? But back in my day, I was an expert at balloons. So I built a tower thing, a plant species X, and another tower distraction thing over here, and that was all of my money. But I also had Steve, and that was enough. Because these waves were the Revenant dudes, and it should have been pretty easy, but I got kind of frozen by a random Veilwind, and then I spent 5 minutes fighting an Alpha Carno that wasn't even part of the wave. But after wave 1, I set up an auto turret and a resource generator, and honestly, this one was super easy with Steve, and I was getting a little bit too comfortable. Because after setting up some more defenses and fighting through another wave of Rockwell's science project, I set up even more defenses and prepared for round 3. And that's where everything went wrong. Because right from the start, there was a Revenant version of Spike Wazowski. And these dudes took me so long to take down that I didn't even notice the Revenant Hannah Brontana on the other side. And by the time I actually did make it over, well, for some reason, the dude's doing thousands of damage per hit, and it was already too late. Dude, he broke it in like 4 hits. This is gamma difficulty. At this point, everything was going wrong, and I really needed to step up my game. So after exploring this nearby cave, why are there so many RGs? It was time for phase 2 of my plan that I'm making up on the spot right now. First of all, I really needed to start taming some of the new creatures. I needed to start crafting some of the new items and the new weapons. I needed to get the new artifacts inside the caves. And finally, I needed to take on the city. And I was gonna start with the Gloon and the Veilwyn. And when I get a Veilwyn, he can be evolved into either a Malwyn or a Soulwyn. And I'm gonna use that to tame an Ossidon. And that guy's one of the strongest creatures on this map. But first things first. The Veilwyn. Now, these guys are super easy, and there's a reason for that. But basically, you just gotta walk up to the dude, you gotta make sure that you have an opposable thumb, and then you press Y. Yeah, that's literally all you gotta do. I was really scared of these guys up until now because I got murdered that one time on day 8. But now that I actually have one, the dudes are super cool. You can have them in this companion mode, which allows you to use these different buffs that they provide. And now I'm faster than Usain Bolt. So I put Mr. Veilwyn and his child into a Pokeball, and there's a reason I didn't give them a name. Because Veilwyns are the base creature that can be evolved into Malwyns or Soulwyns. And that's where things get crazy. Because over in the Northeast, I found a Soulwyn. And taming these guys is pretty simple. He has these little icons for an emote, and you tell your Veilwyn to do them. And then you gain his trust. But that's not what happened. Because halfway through my game of Simon Says with an alien, the dude randomly booked an appointment with Doctor Who. Where are you going? And it wasn't a friendly appointment. Dude, why? What is up with things that are supposed to be friendly randomly attacking me? I'm not really sure what I did wrong, but apparently there's a cooldown and I ended up finding another Soulwyn. And when the taming actually works, it's pretty easy. And 10 rounds of visible emotion later, I now had a pristine Vulpine. Whatever that is. Feed this to a Veilwyn to transform it into a Soulwyn. Okay. But you can't feed it to them right away, because they aren't worthy yet. Before he can evolve, the Veilwyn has to fill his adventure meter. And that means he has to decapitate some people. Bro, the teleport strike is not even fair. But after a few cases of second and first degree murder, and accidentally triggering the entire family lineage of Harry Otter, why are there so many? I eventually realized that he doesn't have to get the kill himself, but it was gonna take a while. So I spent the morning of day 25 focusing on the Gloons and the Revenants for easy kills. And that's when I came across this level 135. I murdered him, of course, and after some Alpha Carno related activities, I found this level 135 baby Gloon all by himself in the wild. I wonder what happened to his parents. So I adopted him, and then I immediately realized why his father never came back from the store. Bro, what in tarnation is this thing? This man was ugly, and he was creepy. So I decided to name him Creep. And we'll test out that creep in a minute, because the Veilwyn's adventure meter was full, and it was time to Ark Survival Evolve. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Frosted Flakes.
Hi, how are you?
He has 5 eyeballs for some reason, but when I opened his stats, whoa, dude, 13,000 health and 600 melee. This man was better than Steve. So on day 26, I returned back to my humble abode, and I made a feeding trough so that this creepy child can become a creepy man. And while we're waiting on him to grow up already, it's time to test Mr. Flake. Well, right after I make a saddle for him. Despite being named after cereal, Frosted Flakes was majestic. First of all, he has this hideaway thing where he just appears in my inventory, no cryopod needed, but the abilities are ridiculously cool, no pun intended. Because first of all, this man has a giant cone of ice that can freeze things. He can slide down ledges to prevent fall damage, and he can even climb back up. But none of that is too crazy compared to these 4 abilities: Glacial Endurance, Glacial Power, and Glacial Swiftness. The buff trifecta that makes Frosted Flakes stronger. But honestly, I don't even care about any of that. The reason I tamed this guy was for the ice bridge. And it took me a minute to figure this one out, but dude, it's so cool. It's kind of laggy, but so is everything on this game. And you can place these ice bridges infinitely just through the air molecules. And you can even angle them up or down and just like climb and fly around however you want. It's really a really cool mechanic. This is exactly how I'm going to tame an Ossidon. But anyways, we also have Creep here. And I don't want to exaggerate too much, but I think he's the best creature in the entire game, because after messing with all his flashlight settings and mesmerization on auto or whatever, I wasn't sure what this organic flashlight even does. So I took Doctor Who down to the snow, punched a mammoth in his tibia, and that's when it happened. The creep on my shoulder began shooting his creepy eyeball lights directly into Mr. Mammoth's soul. Bro was mesmerized, of course, and what that means is that he completely forgot that he hates me and wants to murder me. That punch in the tibia never happened. And it can even make other creatures attack my mesmerized target. And that's not even the best part, but you'll see that soon. Because after some off-camera grinding, yeah, I had my recording paused, don't judge me, I used this organic penguin polymer to craft this fabricated crossbow. And these are really nice because they can load 10 shots at a time, and that comboed with Frosted Flakes was just what I needed to tame that level 140 Ossidon, or at least try to. But then I noticed something. Oh, wait, what is this? In addition to being creepy, Creep is also a DPS machine, literally. And if you put him on your wrist like this, the dude fires a laser that gets stronger and stronger the longer you hold it on your target. And keep in mind, I haven't leveled this man's melee at all, and that mammoth just died in less than 10 seconds. And I'm not sure what took me so long to tame this guy or Frosted Flakes, but I have them now. And next up was Mr. Ossidon, and I'm gonna need a lot of tranks for that guy. I was hoping that if I tamed this guy, I could use him for Outpost and in the city. And I was wrong about that, but not for the reasons you might expect. And this was a lot harder than I thought, because when I arrived, I bridged above the Ossidon. And my theory was that if I stayed on the bridge above the dude, he couldn't snipe me with his little ice attack. But this man has 14,000 torpor. And the bridge strat only worked for about 3 shots. You see, Mr. Ossidon decided to go underneath my bridge like a troll, both literally and figuratively. And when I tried to peek him, well, I messed up. And this happened. Oh, dude, what do I do? As I slowly descended towards a barbarian, I thought that day 27 was gonna be my last. But then I was saved by a creep. Oh, he's mesmerizing him. And if I didn't have this dude, I would definitely be dead right now. Bro, you just saved my entire run. I kind of feel bad for calling you a creep now, but I'm still alive and I'm not giving up that easy. So this time I decided to equip my other crossbow with some grappling hooks just in case that happens again. But this time I'm staying on Frosted Flakes, that way I can't fall. And even though it was a little annoying, I found some better angles and I stopped waiting in between shots, just letting it fly, spraying and praying. And eventually, I did get him up to half torp, and that's when I missed my opportunity. Oh, he reset. To tame an Ossidon, you're supposed to get them halfway knocked out and then run up and mount them while they're stunned. And as you can see, or not see, I guess, well, he's not stunned anymore. So I shot another 70 trank arrows into this man's love handle. But this time, I was paying attention. Okay, we got it. But now that I was riding Mr. Ossidon, it wasn't over yet, because I still had to do the weirdest taming method of all time. Okay, so basically, this man's rickrolling a giant slime ball, as you can see, and you have 3 minutes to roll it over 10 ice spikes that he shoots himself, like that, for some reason, and roll over 6 different small animals. Yeah, it's kind of weird. But once you've successfully rickrolled 6 of your coworkers, he should be tamed. He's not yet tamed. Wait, 25%? He was 25% tamed, meaning I had to do all of that, knocking him out and rolling a slime ball again and again and again. Good times. So after heading back to repair my crossbow, I returned to the Revolutionary War, and I was a little bit worried that he would get himself deleted, but every time he ate one of those bodies, he just like fully healed, so I think we'll be alright. Anyways, my next attempt was just as unsuccessful as the first, because the moment I started shooting the crossbow, a Yudi decided to roar, and Frosted Flakes was so scared that he lost all mental capacity in his brain, and he decided to run by jumping down to the Ossidon. And at this point, I was really worried, but luckily me spamming some bridges and just like jumping and running away, I actually did survive. But anyways, taming this man is super repetitive and it takes a long time. I'm not really a fan of the having to knock him out 4 times mechanic, but I need him on my team. And here's what happened. That took a while. On day 31, the Ossidon was tamed, and I'm just trying not to die over here. But since I didn't have a saddle, I just had to watch as he participated in the Hunger Games. And even though the tame was incredibly annoying and it took over 300 trank arrows and 3 fabricated crossbows, that's why it took so long by the way, it was more than worth it. Because back at my apartment, I farmed some fiber, repaired my armor, and made this man a saddle. And when I said these dudes were OP, well, I wasn't lying. Because their health scales similarly to a Rex. And I'm gonna name him Donkey Kong by the way. But to test this guy out, I thought, why not do it at a supply drop? So he visited Doctor Who, and that's exactly what I did. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Donkey Kong. This man is biological warfare at its finest, and that's just the basic attack. Because for some reason, he can also roll this giant ball, which is either made from feces or slime, or maybe both, don't question it. And it just sucks up all the smaller creatures, getting bigger and bigger like a snowball of mystery meat. Bro, why is this even a thing? And that's pretty cool, or weird I guess. But it can also shoot these little ice spikes which slow things down, and I'm pretty sure it increases my damage too. And once I started actually leveling up his melee, the damage started ramping up. With ice spikes down, this man was comboing for 500 or 1,000 damage when he used both hands at the same time, and this creep on my shoulder was putting in some work as well. Long story short, this gamma supply drop was barely even an inconvenience, basically just a meat run. And a few minutes later, it was complete. And it did give me a bunch more resources and paste, which I need, but nothing too crazy. And at this point, I know I can do some more difficult outposts. So after failing one of those ruined vault things again, because Mr. Bronto is OP, you're supposed to like shoot his weak points and not use tames apparently. Day 33 began. And this time, since I brought my entire army to the beta outpost, I was feeling pretty confident. But little did I know that this raid would be the biggest mistake that I've made yet. The beginning was easy, as we took out all the foot soldiers from the outer mission area. But once all the walls started coming down, it got a bit more difficult. Oh bro, they chained me. I can't move. At this point, Donkey Kong was already fighting for his life. But with Steve getting some playing time, we took out all of their reinforcements, all of their generators, Oh, that was close. And as I destroyed more of their structures, I thought that it was over, but I was wrong. Because these dudes sent some more reinforcements. And this time, a lost Ossidon showed up. And he was just as strong as Donkey Kong. I tried to focus all of my effort into that guy. But between this giant buffoon, 25 other menaces to society, and like 30 degenerates all poking at my ankles, things were starting to look really bad. And once Donkey Kong's health dropped to life-threatening levels, I whistled passive, follow, and sprinted to the border, and I made it out. But for some reason, Steve and Frosted Flakes disobeyed my whistle and did not. They must be in their rebellious teenager phase. Now, I should have probably stopped there and cut my losses, but I didn't want to lose them. So I did something kind of stupid. And it actually worked. Okay. Steve, why aren't you following me? Frosted Flakes made it across the border, but Steve decided to disobey my commands once again, and that brother is no longer with us. I don't even see him. I think he might have died. But Frosted Flakes was alive, barely, and the cryopod wouldn't work for some reason. Bro, get in the pod. But despite all of that happening, I didn't want to give up just yet. And looking back at things, I probably should have. Because while Donkey Kong was at the doctor's office getting an ice pack for his wounds, I paused my recording to take some notes. And then I forgot to unpause it. Professional YouTuber, by the way. But the only thing you guys missed was freezing that dude and then killing Mr. Rex and this Ossidon. And at this point, the outpost was pretty clear. And for a moment, I actually thought that I had a chance. But I couldn't have been more wrong. Because as I fed the remaining structures to a giant alien named Donkey Kong, the evil voice called for reinforcements. And at this moment, I had two options. I could run away and not die today, or I could destroy all these structures before the reinforcements arrive. I chose option number 2. The outpost was almost down, but so was Donkey Kong's stamina. And even though almost every single structure had fallen, it wasn't good enough. Oh no. Oh no. How are you out of stamina? You know, sometimes in life, things just don't work out how you would expect them to. And I've also never understood how it's possible to run out of stamina when your life is on the line, but that's exactly what happened here today. Now, you might think I had made it out of here because the video still goes on for another hour after this. But at this moment, I froze. I was trying to jump, it wouldn't let me, and I didn't know what to do. And when Donkey Kong met his demise, my run was over. Oh. There goes 30 hours of my life. Life has this funny way of knocking you down just to see if you'll get back up. And sometimes the point of the game wasn't to win or lose at all. Because at the end of the game, all of the pawns, the queens, and the kings, they all go back in the same box. And somewhere in there, that means the point isn't to win or lose, but to simply continue playing the game. And regardless of whether it was a good idea or not, that's exactly what I did. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my humble abode. And there's some people I'd like you to meet. This is Doctor Who's son, Jack Frost, Hulk Hogan, Fred Flintstone, Donkey Kong Jr., Jabba the Hutt, and the child of Donkey Kong and Jabba the Hutt, our male breeder. It's an interesting family dynamic. Anyways, it's day 43, and the only real difference is that I have a breeding pair of these psychopaths now. I have a chemistry bench.
Yes, science!
And of course, the big one, the base location. I found this little corner over here, and it's basically right next to the snow cave entrance over here. And this whole area is an abandoned part of the city, which is now overgrown, lifeless, and laggy. And it's right here on the map. But anyways, due to the questionable family planning practices, I have this entire army now. Well, assuming they don't starve to death. And that means that I'm almost ready to infiltrate the city of degenerates. And I already had a plan, because over in the northeast corner of the snow, I found this tunnel.
That cave stinks of those shambling rudders Edmund left behind.
And I was gonna go check it out, but then this happened. Oh, okay. The cave was filled with radiation. And as fun as it was to replay 40 days, I don't want to start over again. Because after a quick trip back to my base so I could cuddle with a baby hoodlum, I collected the hoodlum's parents, and I wanted all four to be above the legal warfare age of 18 before doing any military outpost related activities. So while I was waiting, I spent day 44 finding a new Voidwin. Someone wants to die. Adopting him without his permission, and forcing him to dance for this demonic looking dog. Because one of the best creatures on this map is the Malwin, and I have to corrupt this pristine Volpite using the Bloodforge to evolve him. But for now, we'll just name him Alfonso. And speaking of Alfonso's transformation, these two new recruits here, named Gertrude and Eugene, are full-grown adults, and their free trial at life has expired. It's time to enter the military, fellas. And yes, I did do all of this just because I wanted some revenge for earlier, but I needed to prepare. And doing one of these vault defenses was the perfect way to level them up. At least that's what I thought. Because when I started the vault, my Ossidons were so morbidly obese that the game thought they were part of the earth. And now it's like glitched out with the building icons all floating in the air like that. I guess I'll just put a plant up here. And to make matters buggier, after the first wave had been completed, 3 of these quarantine looking dudes were stuck underneath an iceberg. Bro, did they even playtest this map? But luckily they weren't revenant fish and they eventually drowned. But besides that, it wasn't too bad. Round 2 was a breeze. And round 3 was just as easy. But going into round 4, I knew they probably had those Bronto guys. So I decided to park 4 of my Ossidons at this entrance, build some auto turrets, and take the other entrance by myself. And it worked perfectly, because the moment Baraka Bronto arrived, Jabba the Hutt launched an ice spike into his kneecap. He instantly vaporized, of course. But it wasn't over yet, because then a plus-sized Bronto appeared. Oh, my spikes are still on cooldown. Luckily, Jabba the Hutt had so much knockback that I kept the dude far enough away until the weak points on his ankles were all broken, and it wasn't long until every last heathen was sent to the Shadow Realm. Also, for some reason, Jabba the Hutt had like a month's worth of medium-sized poops in his inventory. I don't know what bro was up to, but questioning that could wait, because the vault key was over here in a box on the ice, and when I opened the vault, I was not expecting this to pop out. Wait, what? Did you just gift me a degenerate? The loot from this outpost was kinda mid, but I did get a cursed assault rifle, some red element, and some of those sigils that are used for the boss fight. Oh, and I got Kevin here. Say hi, Kevin.
Hello, your computer has virus.
Alright, that's enough from Kevin. And back at base, I realized that I also got these little medical post things. And I wasn't sure what they did, but apparently you can latch them onto your roommates. Hulk Hogan. And we'll do Fred Flintstone. And then you can siphon their blood, apparently. Bro, what? Why am I doing this? But allegedly, blood packs are super important in this map, so I'll allow it. But I was kind of worried that this could kill them, so I'm not going to leave it for too long. Anyways, I used the red element to make this cursed hatchet BP. And I also had almost 300 AR bullets from the supply drops earlier. So now I can test this cursed assault rifle on Kevin's relatives. Sorry, bro. And speaking of Kevin, these thralls are pretty cool. First of all, he has 4 modes. Follow mode, harvest mode, logistics mode, and turret mode. And before I show you the rest of it, well, this happened. Oh no! I forgot about the blood siphon! I just siphoned all of his blood until he literally died. I mean, I don't know why I feel bad about that, because we farm babies for levels in this game, but like, dude, that just seems so messed up. Anyways, I had 238 blood packs now. And back to Mr. Kevin. Because you can also assign these reformed degenerates to your tames, like Jack Frost here. And you can also brainwash them and mind control them. And in hardcore mode, that's very useful. Look how small my character is compared to Kevin. And he also has unlimited ammo with his little bow thing, but he can also equip other weapons as well, like this long knife. Okay, how do I get out of this? This is gonna be huge later in the run. But anyways, Kevin was getting hungry, and I tried to feed him some steak, but the dude wouldn't eat it. So I consulted Google, and apparently Kevin is a vampire. They primarily eat blood packs, and he can also eat some other things. Can also eat feces? You're a freak, bro. Bon appetit, I guess. I'm not sure if Google was like actually correct about the feces thing, but the blood packs do seem to work. But it was now day 47, and I found myself a brand new outpost. I was a little bit scared because this is what ruined my day earlier, but now that I had 5 giant buffoons, I decided to full send it, and it was suspiciously easy. We absolutely decimated every last degenerate and every last turret. And when nothing was left, the boss showed up. Oh, I didn't know there was a boss. One of the thralls was riding a lost Desmodus, but calling that man a boss is a bit of a stretch, because the moment he decided to come closer, well, he lasted for about 7 seconds. Well, that was anticlimactic. The loot was pretty decent, and he gave me an apprentice Fabby crossbow, some kibble, and of course a degenerate named Robert, and that went pretty well. But what I didn't account for, however, was that my wanted level was now at 50. Also, my game just crashed, but in layman's terms, this means I had a 5-star wanted level with the degenerates. And you'll see what that means very soon. It's not good. Because on day 48, I wanted to tame the last few new creatures and start exploring the city. But then I came across a familiar location. Oh, look, there's a metalhead and disappointment. Oh, and here's my old base. The door to my previous abode was locked, but there was some cooked meat left in the campfire. And if you've never played hardcore before, all of these items are from my old tribe, which doesn't exist anymore because on hardcore your character gets permanently deleted. So now there's nobody here to feed Mr. Metalhead. But anyways, back to the plan. One new creature that I need is the Malwyn. So I was trying to make all the new structures while I was at it, and I started out with the Warbench. I think that might be too big for the living room. The Warbench is something that should have been in this game 5 years ago, but it lets you combine items that you don't need to make other items stronger, and that's pretty cool. And it's also super important for taming this Aureliax. So yeah, at this point my mind was all over the place with the things that I needed to do, and instead of artifacts, I also had to find all these items to fight the Lost King by day 100. But for now, that can wait, because I was here. I was basically in the city, and I couldn't wait any longer. I wanted to see what the hype was all about. So I flew around back to the entrance because I heard that flyers aren't allowed, and I don't want to get myself trapped in there. Summoned my army of buffoons, and with a level 270 lost Ossidon right in the entrance, I think we all know how this is gonna go. Everything was going alright, and the bridge to the left was covered in gloons and revenants, which is not what I was expecting at all, but I did learn something. Killing revenants lowers my wanted level, while killing thralls increases my wanted level. And this is super important, because if you get above level 50 inside the city, the Neophytes are gonna come. And at the time, I had no idea. But anyways, the wanted level soon reached 50 again because I was clearing out the teleporter. And when I put the buffoons into their Pokeballs and teleported to an undisclosed location, that's when it happened.
A few of my special children are on their way to convey my extreme disappointment.
What do you mean, special children? Like special ed? I wasn't sure what was happening, so I looked around when I saw something from above. It kind of looked like a Desmodus at first, but when the dude got closer and he landed, what is that? Well, he had 30k health, and on top of that, my Ossidon couldn't damage it, like, at all. This man really is special. So I wasted no time and I teleported away from the vampire dude, but it still wasn't over, because until I leave the city, he's gonna hunt me down. And after fighting my way out, I tried to figure out how to take him down. The scary part is that he was doing an insane amount of damage per hit, but when I go on foot, he doesn't do anywhere near as much damage. And even though the assault rifle wasn't that effective, 40 damage, bro, he has 30k health. The creep on my shoulder actually was. Oh, okay. So after being chased out of the city, quite literally, I wanted to give it one more shot. And even though it did work out, I could tell that creep was made for this. Oh, this is doing good damage. But my Ossidon was getting super low and it was time to leave. Okay, so they leave you alone once you get out of the city. The city was interesting, and I want to go back as soon as possible, but the wanted level definitely has to go. So I spent day 49 doing a couple of these tower defense outpost things where they spawn all the revenants. And now I have this dude named Marvin. He used to be a degenerate, but now he's reformed. Oh, and this is Tom. He has over 2,000 health. Oh wait, these are probably really good for fighting neophytes. And I also got all of this. And some of it was actually pretty good, but throughout this run, I kind of learned that alpha outposts are the only ones really worth doing. So I spent the rest of day 50 doing some base stuff and getting some upgrades. I hope they allow open carry in there. And on day 51, it was time for round 2. At first, I was gonna use Jabba the Hutt, but I can't kill more than 50 of these thrall guys without getting assaulted by a vampire. So I used Doctor Who to fly into the teleporter, and it actually worked. I skipped about half of the city, but down here, flyers are not allowed, and that might be a problem. I decided to go left to avoid the Spino security guard, but what I found up ahead was just as risky, because not only was there a giant river of, I'm assuming that's blood. I mean, they do live with vampires, and they eat blood for breakfast. Yeah, that's probably blood. But also, there's outposts down here, kind of like the ones in the wasteland. And they are a bit smaller, and they do look easier, but don't let that fool you. Because the moment that I began the raid, well, my pack of bodybuilders absolutely decimated everyone. Jabba the Hutt was over there putting that man in a headlock, Donkey Kong's over there torturing metal spiked walls, and Eugene just digested someone. And by the time it was all said and done, you couldn't even tell that there was an outpost here to begin with. And that's where we had a problem, because I now had exactly 49 on my wanted level, and there was still a boss. And this time, the boss was much more difficult. because this man's Ossidon got lost somewhere, and he had over 100k health. At this point, I was shaking in my boots because I remembered the trauma that I experienced on day 33. It was a lost Ossidon just like this guy, but this time would be different because I had 6 bodybuilding aliens on my side, and it took a while, and it wasn't very interesting. But in the end, we deleted that man, and then we proceeded to delete the little thrall guy that was riding him who had over 40k health for some reason. Yeah, beat him up. But anyways, that went pretty well, and most of my Ossidons only lost about 10k health. I also got 2 level 300 reformed degenerates from that, and I got some more of the resources that I need for the boss fight. But now that I was a criminal, the police are after me, and I really had to get out of there. So I took this teleporter up on the left side, and it brought me to a new corrupted area with revenant hoodlums everywhere. And this was actually super convenient to get rid of my wanted level, but it is kind of weird how that works. Like, if you murder someone, it's bad, right? But then if you murder someone else that kind of deserves it, now it's all good. But anyways, the alien splooge was everywhere, and over in the back was a pink tentacle. And I don't know about you guys, but I saw that and I had the urge to smack it. And what happened next, well, the tentacle opened up a portal to the alien shadow realm, and the next thing I know, there were more miscreants in this room than a maximum security prison. What is happening right now? And that was super weird. And what's even weirder is that I now have seeds to grow a tentacle of my own in my backyard, and apparently it's a prime fish meat plant. I'm not gonna question it. And that was certainly odd, but having these to clear my wanted level is super useful, because after making my way through a back alley filled with criminal activity, why there's so many gloons here? I stuck to the right side, making my way past the purified and perfectly safe drinking water, and did a quick inventory check. I did manage to get 2 alpha zombie brains from something back there, probably like an alpha revenant, and these are one of the tributes for the alpha Lost King himself, along with Neophyte horns, that sounds terrible, alpha Ossidon skulls, and a whole lot of raid materials. But anyways, the path awaits, and as I crossed over the giant bridge, I could see the lower area down below. Oh, that must be where I was when I teleported. And after running straight past the local authorities, I found myself heading down into the abyss. And this is where things get interesting, because the blood water was flowing out over here. And when I made it across this unnecessarily long bridge, I found him.
Our palace is closed to the general public and locked by sigil codes.
You do know that you saying that just makes me want to get in there even more, right? This was the terminal to fight the Lost King. And you guys will see a lot more of this guy later, but the boss fight is unlike any other on this game. And it's debatably the most difficult boss that Ark has ever seen, and most annoying. But I really needed to shift my focus to these sigils and tributes, because I don't have that much time to prepare for this fight. So after I spent like 10 minutes just trying to explore this back corner of the map past the city, it was a tumbleweed simulator. There's literally nothing here. I flew back across this circle arena area until I accidentally entered the no-fly zone. Well, that wasn't supposed to happen. And I was planning on just leaving, but I ended up spending over an hour just exploring the streets while hiding from the authorities. And at one point, a random statue came to life and tried to decapitate me. Wait, did that statue just come to life? But anyways, I ended up jumping back down into the lower city, and a whole lot of tomfoolery took place down there. Why do you have a statue made of your shoe? But long story short, I think I explored the entire city over the next hour or so. And I've come to one conclusion. I hate this place. Will you please leave me alone? Oh great, they can teleport too. Bro, this would be way easier if I was allowed to kill things. Wait a minute. I wonder if... Oh, yeah, I think it's coming alive. So as you might have noticed, every statue in the city is a real living creature, which is a little bit disturbing, to be honest. But also, I really hate to say it, but the city in general, I'm pretty disappointed. Because the only thing of value even here are these outposts, and they're repetitive and most of them are gamma difficulty. But at least now I know what I need to do, and it's time to take down the Lost King. So back at base, after testing out my new indentured servants, it was time to come up with a plan. So I've gathered all of the tributes that I've collected so far, and well, it's not exactly a lot, and I need to take down 15 Neophytes somehow, 5 Alpha Ossidons, some Alpha Revenants, and ravish every Alpha Outpost I see. I need like 400 sigils. And just in case you didn't catch that, I said Alpha Outpost. And for those of you who have played this map before, you might understand why that's a problem. Because I spent most of day 55 just doing some research on YouTube while I was doing chores around base. Shout out to this guy, by the way. And the only thing I have to say about that is that I'm terrified, and I also think I might be traumatized. Alpha is no joke, and I'm not 100% sure yet, but I think I'm gonna go for it. The whole hardcore mode thing makes me have my doubts, though. Because first of all, I'm gonna need some veggie cakes. And more importantly, I need a mana, a reaper, and maybe even some theories, but I might use the Ossidons instead, I'm not sure yet. But the fight has several phases, and some of the different roles need to be filled. And also, the Lost Colony skill tree is super important, and I completely forgot about it until now. I only have 3 skill points so far, but when I do these missions, I'm gonna go for the Spirit Haste skill so I can move faster on foot. And there's also this Toolmaster thing that increases my damage resistance and damage with weapons if I carry tools on. And that's super important, because after you beat the Lost King, you then have to be on foot to beat the Lost Queen. Yeah, it's kind of insane. And we have a lot of work to do. So I decided to start it all out with this guy. The Mana Garmer is one of the most annoying creatures in this entire game, but he's also one of the best. And I was gonna tame this level 140, but while I was clearing the area, the dude decided to dive bomb right into Jabba the Hutt's massive forearm, and despite there being no way that man was gonna survive at this point, he decided to keep attacking me. So I granted his death wish, and then I applied for custody of his children. Okay, so remember when I said that these dudes were annoying? Well, apparently the babies are too. Because it took me like 3 minutes just to claim this man. Why did they have unlimited stamina? But whether he likes it or not, I am now his father. But the problem is that babies are never as good as the actual tame because they don't get the bonus taming effectiveness. So I'm probably gonna have to tame another one. But anyways, after going out to the store to buy some lunch for my children, I decided to check out the Reapers because I haven't seen one this entire time. And that makes sense because there was only one single Reaper on this entire map. And she was inside the radiation zone that almost killed me earlier. Okay, I need some blue gems for a hazard suit. So on day 57, I set back out for the city. Okay, flyers are disabled here. Because these statues from earlier, the ones that come alive, well, they actually can give blue gems. Well, they can give all of the gems. Until they become sentient and murder you, of course. And I kind of forgot my pickaxe, but even with the hatchet, I'm getting red, green, and blue gems and some crystal. So after slaying a few more fake statue dudes, something tickled Jabba the Hutt's ribcage. Oh, there's an outpost. So I decided to use my lunch break to commit some atrocities. It's genuinely insane how strong these Ossidons are. Like, I'm on default vanilla one-time stat scaling, and they're just casually clapping dudes for 1,000 damage. But anyways, it took a solid 20 seconds to completely flatten this outpost, and even though Mr. Boss Ossidon had 100k health, and at one point he knocked us out of the arena and we had to start over, he went down pretty easy as well. And I was really getting the hang of these outposts, but the worst part is just how heavy everything is. Like, bro, why do I have 72 pounds worth of beer and 60 pounds worth of cake? Bro, if beer and cake weighed that much in real life, maybe America wouldn't have an obesity problem. But anyways, the beta and gamma outposts are super easy at this point, and I decided to do this gamma one as well just for the sigils.
My master instructor and his Ossidon will give you a final lesson.
Bro, how many master instructors do you have? Like, you've got to run out at some point. And I finished farming the blue gems. I feel kind of weird seeing this graveyard. I'm probably the reason for 90% of those. On day 58, I made it back to my humble abode. And now the only item left for the hazard suits was congealed gas balls. Unfortunately, we're not on Earth, so there's no Taco Bell, and we're gonna have to improvise. So I used the red gems and some crystal from the statues to make a gas collector. And I found a vein over here on the map. But the game wouldn't let me place it down, and I'm pretty sure it's because of this defense outpost. And I guess that works out because I needed to lower my wanted level anyways. These outposts were really cool at the beginning of this run, but once you get built up enough, it just gets kind of annoying and repetitive, to be honest. Like, they take forever, and the game makes you sit here grinding them over and over again for sigils just to do the boss fight. And for the defense ones, if you're not watching the side where the Bronto spawns, you basically just lose right there. Okay, dude, really? But the sigils are needed for the final boss, and it'll all be worth it. But anyways, the raid was over, but the gas vein was still blocked. So after leaving the game and then logging back in, that seemed to clear out everything, and I'll have to come back here later when this man becomes gaseous. So after raiding this outpost, and immediately being wanted again,
My best marksman just returned from a mission.
your best marksman, huh? The army of reformed degenerates was slowly growing, and the manas were as well, like literally. But level 140 isn't very great, and I'm gonna need to tame a better one. Also, I'm pretty sure that I lost one of my Ossidons because he's not spawned in on my tame tracker at all, and the cryopod isn't in any of the inventories inside my base. I might have dropped the cryopod. That's the only thing I can think of. Yeah, that brother's probably gone. So while I was waiting on the gas balls, I tracked an alpha Ossidon, and there was only one on the map who was level 20. This seemed preferable to hunting Neophytes, but to be honest, it really isn't. Because when I got there, bro was inside of a mountain, and it turns out he was actually inside of a cave. Well, kind of. Because inside this cave entrance, I dove into the abyss. And I heard somewhere that if you stare into the abyss for too long, the abyss stares back at you. But in this case, Mr. Alpha Ossidon, with 40k health by the way, has been staring for so long that he's become one with the abyss. Is he inside the wall? This was a classic Ark moment. And even though his entire torso is exposed, I can't hit this man. Even the power of a creep couldn't phase him, but he can still hit me, of course, because logic. But as you can tell, that didn't go very well. And I'm probably gonna have to do a dino wipe or something later if they're not gonna spawn in. But for now, I did the one thing that I still could do. I grabbed the 3 dino gates from my base and watched as this level 145 mana literally refused to touch grass. How do you have this much energy? In Ark Survival Evolved, these dudes will actually land and chase you into this gate. And that makes it super easy to trap them, and that's what I was trying to do. But since this buffoon has drank way too much caffeine today, I'm gonna have to improvise here. Oh, this is so difficult. I was trying to freeze the dude with Doctor Who's medical degree, but it has this delay, so it was like super hard to time. And at one point I did actually manage to get him. Oh, I got him. But instead of actually trapping the Red Bull connoisseur, I trapped myself. What? How did I even do that? At this point, bro was 14 cups of coffee deep, but I didn't give up, and eventually it happened. Oh, okay. All right, and let's do one more right here. And just like that, he had fallen into my trap. No matter how hard he tried, this man could not jump. And all that was left for him to do was simply watch as 25 doses of NyQuil entered his eye socket. He finally stopped jumping. I needed some mutton, but unfortunately all of the Ovis were on the other side of the universe. So instead I slayed Carnold and fed him to this high jumper, and after some waiting around, Overdose has been brainwashed. I named him Overdose, you know, because of the caffeine. Anyways, the stats were pretty bad, but I think they're good enough. Because back at base, I slayed some bushes and turned them into a saddle for Overdose, and since there's only one Alpha Ossidon, and since I can't kill it, I decided to do a dino wipe on the map. And now, we wait. But Alpha Ossidons aren't the only tribute that I need, because I also need Neophyte horns and alpha zombie brains. So with all of that being said, it's now time for me to fight a Neophyte, and I know exactly how I'm gonna pull it off. Hello, Robert. Robert was perfect for this mission, because thralls can use weapons and they have way more health than I do. So I decided to take Bartholomew here. Is that how you spell it? I mean, I guess it is now. Because he has a shotgun. But then I realized that this Thrall Herald over here has a flamethrower. And not only is that way cooler, but they're also really overpowered. So I named him Howard. And with day 60 slowly coming to an end and nightfall approaching, it was the perfect time to hunt some Neophytes. First of all, I made a metal 2x2. I then flew over to this area right on the start of the city, and the Neophyte was already on my tail. All right, I'm gonna have to do this fast. So I set up the floors, the walls, one single door for me and one double door for him because he's a little bit chubby. And I tried to set up the ceilings, but I brought the wrong ones. Oh, I made the wrong ones. But there was no time to turn back now, and this happened. The trap actually kind of worked, but it wouldn't last very long. Because once I started shooting him in his left eyebrow, he remembered that he could fly. Yeah, I kind of expected that. But what I didn't expect was that 3 seconds later, I was in the air, being dangled by a degenerate. I didn't even know they could do this, but he tried to drop me and break my legs. Luckily, I had a parachute. And I changed these little quarter ceilings into triangle ceilings, hoping that that would work. And it actually did. So I summoned Bartholomew to test out his shotgun, and it was pretty decent. And I also wanted to try out Howard the Arsonist, and he was pretty decent as well. The flamethrower does a lot more damage when it's used against me though, I'll tell you that. And everything was going pretty great at first, until this guy showed up. The sneak attack caught me off guard, and I actually almost died from that, but I summoned Jabba the Hutt, and he took care of. Bro, imagine if I died to that. I realized that I should probably be wearing the armor that I brought to protect me from that, but it was pretty cold out, so I'm gonna wear some sweatpants with my metal chest plate. But now that there were no more distractions, you can say we had a pretty good time. Get 'em, boys. Is this what it feels like to be in a gang? Mr. Neophyte dropped 2 of his horns, and that means I need to kill 7 more of these guys for the alpha boss fight. And another one did spawn and try to murder me that night, but the daylight hit and that brother remembered that he was a vampire and went back to sleep. And if the authorities aren't gonna stop me, well, I guess I can do this. Well, y'all's house doesn't exist anymore. That outpost should have been super easy, but since it's on the bridge, I ended up losing one of my Ossidons in the process, and some of the enemies followed him down there, and now I can't really finish the mission. Yeah, I failed. Donkey Kong, what do you think you're doing down here, young man? Anyways, I managed to finish the vampire trap, and the boss tribute chest was also finally starting to come along. But there still wasn't a single alpha Ossidon on this entire map. And if they don't start spawning soon, we might have a problem. There was, however, a level 135 Reaper Queen. Oh, now that's what I'm talking about. And I wasted no time. I couldn't afford to waste this opportunity, because Reapers are amazing for the boss fight. So I collected 240 balls of gas from the Taco Bell bathroom, and when nightfall approached, I was being hunted again. And I wanted to make a quick pit stop to commit some gang violence on a vampire, but while I was waiting on the dude to show up, my night went very differently. Because on day 62, I got assaulted by a rival gang of revenants, and killing them actually lowered my wanted level too much, and now I'm pretty sure the Neophyte likes me, so that's not gonna work. My focus was now fully shifted to the Reaper Queen, and I had just enough poly, crystal, gems, and gasset base to make the hazard suit. But when I did, I realized why the Lost King wants to kill me. Have I always been this ugly? But even though I looked like a deformed Walter White, it was time. And I'm gonna need help from Jack Frost here. I also decided to bring Overdose instead of Doctor Who since it's in a cave. And I'm not sure if that was the best idea. Because if you haven't been around long on Ark, well, these guys used to be the fastest mount in the entire game. But then Wildcard nerfed them by giving them all asthma, and I kind of forgot about that. But anyways, I arrived at the tunnel. And once I made it to the cave, Overdose began overdosing on more than just caffeine. I was gonna have to get out of here pretty fast if he was gonna survive. So when I arrived at the ledge, I threw out my creep and turned him into a flashlight and headed down into the abyss. The Reaper Queen was really close to some radiation water, but I really didn't feel like making a trap, and I was really hoping that Creep's flashlight would be enough. Now, if you've never tamed a Reaper before, basically the charge light allows them to take more damage, and the goal is to get them down below 2,000 health, and then they'll, let's just say in 9 months, you're gonna give birth to an alien baby. And that's what I was hoping would happen, because when the Reaper eventually started glowing red, that means she's ready. But I sat here for 5 minutes, and she wouldn't grab me. And the only thing that I could think of is that the Ossidon is too big, so I tried using Overdose because he's smaller, but that didn't work either. In fact, it made it worse. Because while this Reaper Queen was glowing red, ready for action, she tried to run away and ghost me in person. For some reason, she thought it was a good idea to go into the radiation water. And at this point, I was regretting not making a trap. I thought the game would actually work, but I mean, we are playing Ark. But anyways, there was no time for that, because Overdose was getting super low on health. And I did manage to get him all the way out of the cave, but it was very close. 200 health. Things were looking pretty rough down there though, and the Reaper was glowing red and ready still, but she was now inside the element water. I even tried going near her on foot, but instead of grabbing me, which in hindsight would probably have gotten me killed, she just kept attacking. So I decided to grab my other Ossidon, who's getting low health, and regroup all the way back at top. Slowly, and I summoned Jack Frost. I actually meant to do this at the very beginning, but I forgot. But Jack is smaller, and he can bridge over the water too. And maybe she'll grab me? And that sounded pretty good in my head, but what actually happened would change the entire trajectory of this run. Because when I arrived, I tried to place a bridge right above the water, and I did that, but Mrs. Reaper Queen had other plans. Bro, why will she not grab me? On Ark Survival Evolved, I never had any issues with taming Reapers without a trap, but in Ark Survival Ascended, I've officially learned my lesson to always make a trap. Because after taking a few hits, I got knocked in. And a few seconds later, this happened. Creep got deleted. And so did my shoes. Oh no. Oh no, no, no. The radiation was already killing me, and this was bad. If I didn't make it out in time, my entire hardcore run would be over. But luckily, Jack Frost is an expert in parkour, and I also had enough med brews to keep me alive on the way out. But that was super close, and it's very unlikely that another good Reaper is gonna spawn, so I may have just ruined my chances. But honestly, man, I'm just happy that I didn't die, and I don't have to restart from day 1 again. But anyways, I spent the rest of day 63 tracking down a replacement for the unfortunate passing of a creep, and when I arrived, after jump-shotting his father, I found a poor little creepy orphan all alone. He needed a father figure in his life, and this time, I decided to name him Garlic.
What?
Okay, I can explain. This man's entire life purpose is gonna be to gun down vampires every night with his flame-throwing buddies. And a vampire's weakness is garlic. And on day 64, well, first of all, I made a pretty unsettling discovery. Wait, does Modus spawn in here? Have those guys been up there the entire time? And that was a bit concerning, but I had other matters to attend to. Because over in the mountains, a level 50 alpha Ossidon has appeared. It's about time. And it was also about time for war. The Alpha Ossidon was hitting even harder than my guys. The double claps over here doing 3k. But just as fast as it began, it was over. Because the man only had 50k health, and once he was dead and gone, my Ossidon battalion just kept beating his body into oblivion. Bro, what are y'all doing? He's already dead. And I jumped down to try to see what they were doing, and somehow I managed to get stuck under the map. Okay, why am I not surprised? Come here, Jabba. The Ossidon was down, and upon further inspection, Eugene had stolen both of his skulls. Wait, why did he have 2 skulls? But after that fight, day 64 was pretty uneventful. I mainly just went back to the purple area of the city, and I used Jabba the Hutt's oversized forearm to anger a tentacle plant which summoned the entire mafia. And I was hoping that this would give me the alpha zombie brains, but it never did. Okay, I'm not sure where I got those from. But it was now day 65, and I think the solution to all of my problems is just spamming Outposts for like 6 or 7 hours straight and killing Neophytes every night. But before I do that, I wanted to finally tame a Malwyn, and I was gonna farm the 5 element for the Bloodforge using the lamppost in the city. Because these things do give element dust, and they give a lot more if you use a Doedicurus. But then I realized I would need a tech replicator too, and that's gonna be a problem. Even if I farmed the 100 element for this, I don't have the Engram unlocked because you have to beat a boss fight first. So that's gonna have to wait, because there's a few things that I need to do. First of all, I need to breed an army of barbarians to take on the Lost King. I need to do about 237 more outposts to get the sigils to spawn the dude, and hopefully the outpost will kill 2 birds with 1 stone and level these guys up as well. What I'm trying to say is, this is one of the grindiest maps of all time, and it's about to get super repetitive. But we have a boss fight to do, and there's no turning back. So I'll put on some music while we destroy the lives of thousands of degenerates, and you can just sit back and relax. Okay, so that took over 10 hours, man. And I'm not gonna pretend to enjoy that. That was terrible. But it's day 87, and we did it. I now had 18 fully imprinted Ossidons, or I will after these young men decide to grow up, and I really hope that they're gonna be enough. So I spent a solid 30 minutes doing some health consultations with Doctor Who, and on day 88, I want to show you guys what I've been up to for the last 10 hours of my life. Because this right here is a box. Pretty cool, right? This is my boss tribute storage box. And as you may have noticed during that montage, I only beat 2 alpha outposts in this entire video. And if I wanted to do the alpha boss fight, I needed 200 of these and 200 of the defense sigils as well. That's 38 more alpha outposts. I think like 5 Ossidons died in that last one. And that's why we have 150 of each beta sigil here. I have the Neophyte horns, the degenerate brains, and even the skeletons of some local bodybuilders. And I also have an entire city council meeting going on in my backyard. Like, bro, I did so many outposts. I stopped recruiting these cult members over 10 days ago, but I'm still finding them in cryopods in my storage boxes. But anyways, even though this isn't the exact army that I wanted, Reapers are just not spawning for me. And at this point, there wasn't much left to do. I had everything ready, and I did it way ahead of schedule thanks to the 3 times that I died earlier. I kind of memorized how to play the map. But there was still one thing on my list. Well, 2 things actually. Because I needed to brainwash myself. Like, actually, I need to make a mind wipe. So after chopping down a bunch of mushrooms in the starting zone, I wasn't really sure where to find rare flowers on this map, but I did find an Elder Claw. And that brother is made of flowers. But in true Ark fashion, he was also stuck inside of a wall. But there was another one over here. So after borrowing some prime meat from the neighbors, while that was cooking up in the campfire, I took Fred Flintstone out to stimulate some berries. Okay, that sounded kind of weird. Made some stimulants inside the lab, and crafted 1 dose of amnesia. But it was now day 90, and it was really bothering me that I didn't have a Reaper, so I decided to head back over there on Jack Frost one last time to convince this man to come out of the radiation bath. And that's what I did. I built a bunch of ice bridges, and I even tried to build a stone ramp down, but it needed more support to be all the way. I even tried to put an ice bridge on the stone bridge, and I spent over 20 minutes just trying different angles all over the place, but nothing was working. At one point, I even jumped into the radiation bath with him, but even with these pillars down, it still didn't let me place the ramp. And my only other option would be to kill this guy and hope another one respawns, but I didn't have very high hopes of that with the levels on this map. So I headed home, and on day 91, I came up with a better plan. I wanted to tame a Yeti, but it's not going to be a level 150 because that brother's also stuck inside of a wall. But this one was good enough. Hello, young man. Would you like to donate some mutton to the U Tyrannus Foundation? Thank you for your donation. It took a while, but on day 92, Vladimir Utin was tamed, and I did manage to find this 50 armor Yeti saddle, which isn't amazing or anything, but it's alright. Everything was ready, and after doing a quick beta supply drop to level up Mr. Vladimir Utin's yodeling skills, I needed to figure out what I was going to bring. So I grabbed 2 sets of backup flak armor. I used a dude named Marvin as a test subject. Okay, I like the fabricated crossbow better. And with my inventory full of these items, I weighed 231.4 pounds. And that was super important because it was time to mind wipe. Because it was now day 93. And to be honest, I didn't know what to do next.
I don't know. I never thought I'd get this far.
There were 7 days remaining until the main event, but honestly, I was already ready. So I went with 800 health because there's a lot of on-foot parts of the boss fight. And I also had to schedule an appointment with Doctor Who, which made me kind of hungry. But anyways, it was time. So I started cryoing my Ossidons. Now, it would be nice to have better saddles, and it would be nice to have a Reaper, or maybe even some Theories for the 200 veggie cakes I got from the Outpost. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, and I'm pretty confident. And while I'm on my way to the arena, I kind of want to talk to you guys about the Outpost grind. I thought it was really cool at first, like the whole city and all of that, but then having to do the same Outpost 30 times just to get the tributes is a bit excessive. Like, just why? Sorry for the TED Talk. But anyways, it was all worth it, because everything so far has led up to this moment. The hardest boss fight in the game. At least that's what they tell me. And I haven't even started yet, but I'm already worried. I don't think these dudes are all fitting in the teleporter. Also, the middle of this teleporter is absolutely terrifying. It's like when you used to build a pillow fort as a kid, except instead of pillows, it's just giant fingernails from the entire cast of My 600-Pound Life. But anyways, it was time. Bro, the game just crashed. Because despite me recording a grand total of 142 days in this video, it's still not day 100. Not very epic. As I entered the fight, Jabba the Hutt's buttocks were sticking out of the teleporter. We might lose some Ossidons, they are way too fat. And when we teleported, I had exactly 1 hour to make it inside the palace. And even though it was peaceful at first, the moment I crossed the bridge, the Lost King had found me. And that was the beginning of the end. Phase 1 was complete. And I think I know why people recommend Theries instead of Ossidons for this. Bro, do you have to get stuck on everything? It's gonna take you a whole hour to walk up a staircase. But we made it up to the hallway. And this is where the degenerates showed up, and the lag. But this is also the first area I have to explore on foot, and the Ossidons can't help me. Now, I would say this is where things began to fall apart, but the truth is, trouble had been brewing from the start of this run. And I simply was not prepared. And just like that, everything was gone. The YouTube video that I watched for the boss said that I could just peek my head into their outpost, maybe shoot one guy, and then they'd all just chase me out this door and get mauled by Jabba the Hutt. But clearly that was a lie. Bro, you're corner camping with a rocket launcher! But I was so close to beating this entire thing, and I just can't let it in like that, man. Before this boss fight, I made a backup save file on my PC, and even though I failed, I know exactly where I went wrong, and I won't let it happen again. Because this time around, the dudes actually did chase me to the door. Rocket Man was probably stuck last time, and the final thrall guy was so tall that I could barely hit his kneecaps. But it wasn't over yet, because the next courtyard was the hardest area yet. And with almost everyone and their mother owning a flamethrower in this town, I was just running for my life, bro. Because one hit is all it takes. And somewhere along the way, Vladimir Utin died. But we made it through. And I found myself face to face with more degenerates than I've ever seen in my life. I knew this was it. And when the doors opened, only one of us was making it out alive. And there it is. I kind of expected that to happen. My flak armor was basically broken from earlier, and I kept using B to try to dodge like I was playing Elden Ring. But all things considered, I'm pretty happy with how the run went. If you guys enjoy seeing me suffer as your form of entertainment, let's try to get this video to 10k likes. Also, if you guys want to leave a comment on your opinions of Lost Colony as a map, I'm going to respond to some of those and we can have some discussions down in the comments section below. I have mixed feelings about it. And don't forget to download Raid Shadow Legends using the QR code on screen or the link in the description below. And if you want to see me beat Ark without breaking any of the 10 commandments, click right here.